Phil, what would it take to get you to hop on a boat and head down the Amazon as somebody's friend, not somebody with an official, like, real job, but just a guy wearing a sports team hat,
Okay.
a pal? What would it take to get you to join up on a dangerous documentary film expedition?
Yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, how long are we heading out for? Like, what are we trying to do?
Filming a documentary in the style of, I guess, the early days of film, but somehow in the 1990s.
Okay.
Something of a strange mashup of Jaws, King Kong, and Jurassic Park, but nowhere near as sophisticated as any of those movies.
Okay. Can I bring Jack Black and Paul Rudd with me?
I mean, I don't see why not.
Well, then I might be in. That sounds like it's entertaining.
Okay. Emergency tangent. We ain't gonna talk about it. Emergency tangent. It's an indulgence. Emergency tangent. Yeah. Geek out, big nerd. Freak out, big nerd. Shut up. Emergency tangent. It's an indulgence.
Howdy, and hello to you all. It's another emergency tangent from the good people at Emergency Podcast. I'm Moisés Chiullán. Joining me, as always, the man whose name rhymes is still the best. Everyone, it's Phil West. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing great. Saturday morning here and anticipating the Christmas release of the 2025 version of Anaconda.
And in celebration of that, we've decided to go back to the long ago days of almost 30 years ago, and 1997's Anaconda, starring Jennifer Lopez, in theory, Eric Stoltz, who's sidelined for the vast majority of the movie until he's narratively useful. Ice Cube in truly standout early role of his as he was making the transition over to the silver screen. A cold open appearance by the one, the only Danny Trejo, who thereafter would be pretty much everywhere you saw a movie. There are members of this cast that you remember, and there are members of this cast that are seared into your memory forever, and that person in this cast is definitely Jon Voight in brownface, though not using makeup.
Sort of.
Yeah, brownface without the makeup, as Paul Cerrone, an Italian-sounding name for allegedly a Paraguayan snake poacher.
Yep, clearly from Paraguay. Has a ponytail that he is rocking throughout the entirety of the movie.
A completely insane demeanor. He showed up for the camp, is what I can say to his credit. Doesn't make it a good performance. And then also
a memorable performance, though.
Memorable indeed. As the sound guy, Owen Wilson. As his girlfriend, the production manager, Kari Wuhrer, who I forgot Kari Wuhrer was in this. She doesn't have a lot to do other than scream.
And borrow from some horror movie tropes.
Yeah. So Anaconda, for those who haven't seen it, I recommend you do. It's a cult classic for a reason. It's a Jaws, but a slasher, and you spend much more time on the boat. And you know that this thing is destined for some version of failure, even though, look, you start a movie and you put a few paragraphs of text on the screen to explain, by the way, this animal predator that is at the center of the movie is a gigantic threat and should be considered very dangerous. If you showed up to a movie called Anaconda and you didn't know this already, I don't know what you showed up for.
Do we spoiler alert here at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we can say that we're going to spoil it all, but that's effectively the setup, and the movie just kind of starts in the way that the movie just ends at the end. You don't get a whole lot of setup, so we've set you up about as well as we can, and if you don't want to be spoiled, I guess pause this, go watch Anaconda, come back, and
absolutely
listen to
watch
this.
it. Yeah.
Phil, what's your relationship with Anaconda? How far does it go back? Did you see this theatrically? Did you see it on cable? What glorious memories of this cinematic classic do you have?
I saw this about a month ago. My 8-year-old daughter has gotten really into Jack Black. So found out that Jack Black was going to be in this 2025 version that's coming out in Christmas and decided as a family we should watch Anaconda. So, and my wife was into it and I was into it as well. I was a little suspicious at first. I was a little curious as, okay, is this really a movie that my 8-year-old daughter should be watching? Is this really a movie that I should be watching, given that I am a man of taste and culture? But it's a rollicking good time. It is incredibly campy. It is obviously not, we shall say, the best at special effects, but also the best in special effects and how bad they are. This is your classic, so bad it's a good movie, kind of wraps around, and the campiness of all that makes it quite enjoyable, even though, yes, on its surface, if you are Siskel and Eberting it, you are thumbs downing it on critical credentials, but you're also probably thumbs upping it in terms of, I had a great time.
Yeah, it's one of those that I think initially the vibe was critically, oh, well, this is garbage, but it's digestible garbage. There's not exactly any nutrition to it, but there's fun to it. And the special effects are such that, granted, it was around 30 years ago, and there are massive differences in terms of what was happening digital effects wise. And frankly, some of the practical effects stand up better than I remember them initially. And this is a few decades later with the benefit of, I want to say that I saw it initially on VHS. Almost certain that I did not see this theatrically. I either saw it on VHS or on cable, and watching it at home in 4K, gloriously restored. Not exactly something I ever quite expected to see. I mentioned that the movie is kind of Jaws, but a slasher movie, but it's also kind of like those 1960s Disney adventure movies, where for some reason they're making a movie that's got a cougar in the middle of it or some other wild animal or something like that. But in this case, it's not an actual real animal. But they're the same level of cartoon stakes, the same level of camera cutaways to avoid using another effect shot because those things cost money, whether it's bringing out the practical giant rubber snake or whether it is the full CG snake. One of the more hilarious shots is of the snake swimming through the water, and you can see Owen Wilson's body bulging in its belly.
Accurately represented. You can tell that it's Owen Wilson.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's got his nose, man. It's unmistakable.
Kind of like Han Solo frozen in carbonite.
Very much so. Actually, I think that's probably the most apt comparison you could make.
But inside a snake.
So, we have lanterns hung that are never picked back up again, like the parasite that swims up your urethra and burrows in real good. That never becomes an actual plot point. They just mention it because they're on the Amazon.
The river can find many ways to kill you.
Even though they mentioned that, somehow at one point a wasp gets inside the breathing mask of Eric Stoltz while he's trying to cut the boat free. So
mask. I see what you did there.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that sets things up that it doesn't pay off, leaves you hanging and leaves you just trying to figure things out. But to me, what I like about it is the honesty of, guess what? You're going to be on a boat. You're going to go to the Amazon, and various people who should probably not be on a boat for any reason in the Amazon doing something that is vaguely finding a lost tribe that doesn't feel like it takes a lot of effort when they do finally end up doing it. But even when they set out to do it, it doesn't seem like any of these people are especially well equipped for, we'll say, a jungle cruise to find hidden secrets and so on. Let's talk a bit about the cast.
So it is just, we should say, Heart of Darkness, but with the Godzilla-like snake.
Yes.
In terms of
campiness. So, all right. It's Jaws meets Heart of Darkness meets King Kong meets Friday the 13th, but it's a snake instead of Jason.
And it's a 60s Disney movie as well.
And it's Charlie the Lonesome Cougar, but a giant snake.
It contains multitudes.
Exactly. Among the cast, you went in expecting Jennifer Lopez. You went in expecting Jon Voight, Who surprised you that you were not expecting as someone who was new to the movie?
I mean, I think Owen Wilson, because this is very early Owen Wilson, and it's not the role that you would usually associate him with. You consider him kind of more of a maybe comedy lead, and he's definitely in a supporting role. And again, we don't know what this movie strives to be exactly. It is an adventure, it is suspenseful, but it is also maybe unintentionally comedic. So in that way, maybe that's something that's there. So yeah, that's yeah. And again, Ice Cube, obviously, as you mentioned, this is very early in his career when he's transitioning from his stint with NWA to his unexpected kind of transition to the silver screen. There is actually, found this quite enjoyable very early in the movie. He says it's a good day, which is, of course, a shout out to his classic hit single, It Was a Good Day, right? Where the Lakers beat the Supersonics and the Goodyear blimp heralds him in its own peculiar way and all that. But we won't delve too much into the song. But if you know, of course you know it. If you don't know it, though, you absolutely need to know it.
Well, this was very much the phase of Ice Cube showing up in movies where they were very directly going, hey, by the way, it's Ice Cube. He's not really playing a character. He's just Ice Cube. He may have a different name in this movie, but he's just Ice Cube. So most of the reason that he's in this movie is so that we can go, hey, see this guy? He's Ice Cube. Did you remember Ice Cube? He's still Ice Cube.
He's straight out of Compton into the Amazon.
Indeed. Eric Stoltz. Eric Stoltz is the know-everything, khaki-clad anthropologist wonk who just knows everything. The thing that confused me was, as it went on and J-Lo started calling him baby, I was like, was there supposed to be a relationship between the two of them that I missed? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I thought that they were love interests, but then I'm not going to say that I was paying 100,000% attention the entire time. But I went, that's very thinly set up because she doesn't seem all that worried that he's mortally injured when he is mortally injured.
There's some furrowed brow. There's some furrowed brow acting that
it's
happens in there. But yeah, it's not well established, but I think it is established.
It's nothing I have against Jennifer Lopez. I don't think she's given a lot to work with here, but it feels like they cut out a little bit too much setup. The movie is a nice lean 90 minutes, but it could have comfortably been 100 minutes long and given a little bit more shape to some of these characters than here's the Snake Chow wearing a halter top. The thing I had forgotten most was that Eric Stoltz is basically a non-presence until he needs to wake up at the end of the movie.
Right. So he's a first act and a third act presence, but he is pretty much comatose during the entire second act. So, which does leave the opening for, of course, Jon Voight's character to commandeer the boat and turn the quest from we are trying to document this lost tribe to we're going to hunt this giant snake and capture it alive.
Yeah. Jon Voight shows up as Cerrone, the Paraguayan Quint of the expedition, who just happens to be right where he would need to be for them to run into him.
Boat breaks down.
His boat broke down completely by chance.
Air quotes.
Completely by chance. I'm actually most curious what your daughter's reaction to all of this was. What did she like? What was entertaining? What was boring, if anything? How does a young mind of this generation that loves Jack Black process this original movie?
Yeah, I think in ways she was kind of rooting for the snake at points. I think she was pretty fascinated with the snake. We all recognized that it was not a realistic snake, which made it a lot easier, a lot more palpable. Again, if you had a snake that was actually realistically depicted, that would be more nightmare fuel. This was just kind of funny in a way. So yeah, she was just delighted throughout the whole thing. I don't think she got particular attachments to the cast, although she did seem to root for J-Lo and Ice Cube by the end when we had the very extended final battle with the snake, or final battles with the snake. But we are getting maybe a little bit ahead of ourselves here.
Look, I mean, if it were any more of a cinematic classic, I think we'd be more worried about jumping around and jumping all over the place. But since the movie jumps around all over the place, I feel like we're only doing it the best tribute possible. The character we haven't talked about is one that shows up with the carpet bags and is just perfectly arch and perfectly silly of a character to insert, because you know what? You're going to make a documentary on the Amazon. What do you need to do? You need to bring the voiceover narrator so that he can be seen on camera for literally only that reason. Like, he could record all of the narration after the fact, but instead you bring him along so that you have brilliant Australian-born British actor Jonathan Hyde, who I knew best at the point that I saw this because my younger brother was obsessed with the live-action Macaulay Culkin Richie Rich movie, in which he played the butler Cadbury. And he basically shows up as the exact same character here with his case of Bordeaux wine. Be careful, that's very expensive. Wanting to listen to opera and hit golf balls on the deck. Upon this revisit, my favorite character in the movie. I love him because his mere presence is absolutely ridiculous. He doesn't need to be there. He is out of a Jay Ward cartoon, but in thrilling live action. And some would say the great hero of the movie. He's the reason that the survivors survive and discover the tribe so that the movie can abruptly end. See, like we said, we're jumping all over the place. That's
and you know
ending.
what else he is, though? You know what else he is?
What else is?
He's clearly marked for death.
1,000% marked for death from the moment he says, "That's expensive wine," as he's getting on the boat. You're like, this guy's going to die.
And
but
it will be a comeuppance.
He gets that redemption arc of, oh man, but he's a good guy, but also he is Snake Chum. There's no way he's making it to the end of the movie, but he is given that. Not all lily-livered English white men. Not all of them. Really.
Right. Okay, so we do have to get to the very start of the movie, because who does not become Snake Chum is Danny Trejo. So he is a poacher. He has some tie-in with Paul Cerrone, as we learn later, but this is the establishing cold open that we talked about. So he is on a boat, and the Anaconda seems to be coming for him, the Anaconda that we will meet later in more depth. And Danny Trejo, who most recently in Zootopia 2, which we saw last night, voices a lizard named Jesus, who we won't spoil any of that because that actually is a movie worth watching, especially if you have a child. So a more appropriate movie for an 8-year-old than Anaconda.
Well, but I don't know. People might argue with you about that. Anaconda sounds like a pretty appropriate movie for an 8-year-old the way you're selling it.
Right. But he decides to kill himself. He gets a gun and you think, oh, he's going to try to shoot the snake. But no, he shoots himself rather than becoming Snake Chum. So we get established early on that there are much more preferable deaths to being consumed by a snake, as we will later learn. It's the case with Owen Wilson and our haughty Englishman and a couple other people.
And this cold open with Danny, I remember what he looked like 30 years ago, but it does take a minute to go, wait a minute, is that Danny Trejo? Is that Danny Trejo's son? No, that's Danny Trejo. For me, one of his most indelible film performances is getting to be the Drew Barrymore in Scream of this giant snake movie. To me, it's got the best filmmaking in the movie. It's got some of the best suspense in the movie. As a short film, to me, it's better than the rest of the movie that follows it. But that's not so much an insult as that's the advantage that you have with that kind of slasher movie cold open. It's a miracle that any movie gets made. And it's a miracle that this movie came together as well as it did. And I think that it's easy to punch down on low budget, low resource, small crew, independent scale movies that, at the time, I want to say this cost 16, 20 million, something like that, which is surprisingly little money for what they ended up with. And that's not even counting what it did in terms of box office. But this movie has everything. It has your slasher stuff. It has your suspense moments. It has way more plot points that involve, oh man, but we've got to get off the boat. Who could have possibly thought we would have to get off the boat? I mean, that's the majority of everything that happens on this broken down Disney ride of a plot. It's pretty much that, rinse and repeat. You dynamite an impediment in your way, and then you get back on. The boat gets snagged, one of your characters goes out of commission. Going through and recounting the plot, I will spare folks because I don't know that it is more useful than just talking about the individual moments and beats that are why you enjoy going on the ride. It's like going, I'm going to write a dissertation on the Jungle Cruise and exactly how the Jungle Cruise goes. You're there for the backside of water. You're there for this one moment and this other moment. So moments along the way that stood out to you, Phil, that surprised and delighted you.
Oh, I wanted to say one thing here before we delve into the plot. So you were talking about the challenges of making a movie and being low budget and all that. This is a self-contained enough cast to where this could be a play. Yeah. Which usually indicates a sign of quality. That is not necessarily the case here. This could be an off-Broadway production if you wanted, but it would not be a very sustainable Broadway production. But it's basically like 8 people in the stretch of this, if I'm counting right. Let's delve a little bit into, as we establish Cerrone and who he is, just watching him and his character evolve and Jon Voight's portrayal is really fascinating to me. Like, I think there are parts in the movie where the director says, pretend you are a snake, because a lot of the acting is in his face, but not how you would expect. It's not necessarily emotive, but it's a kind of weird, sleepy, hypnotized, yet kind of creepy countenance that he has as he's taking everything around him. This is a Machiavellian takeover of the boat. He's there under the pretenses of he's stranded and he's being helped, and then understands that they are trying to find this tribe. He's quote unquote helping them do that. And in the meantime, he is leading them toward the watery path of, actually, we're going to try to capture this snake. Again, this is like a Ahab and the white whale relationship that he has with this anaconda. And so he is trying to capture this anaconda alive. This is clearly an anaconda that does not want to be captured alive, that enjoys eating people, and then, as we learn, regurgitating them and eating other people in the process. So it's a kind of one snake force of death and destruction throughout the Amazon that Jon Voight's character is obsessed with. And yeah, it's quite enjoyable. Again, maybe it gets a little hackneyed, maybe it gets a little over the top, but that's the ride that you were in for.
A little is the understatement of the year. To me, and this is, speaking of your 8-year-old daughter, great use of a wonderful audio cue she gave us. You compare this to a play. I'm not going to say Shakespeare. Come on, that's going a little over to the top. But maybe Beckett. It's Beckett on a boat. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's Beckett on a boat. And you have the kind of lyric poetry coming out of these characters' mouths. Something that I feel like if you asked Owen Wilson, he would probably say this is still one of the greatest lines he has ever gotten to deliver. You don't know about the we're in right now. I mean, as an actor, how many times do you get something that good? Mm-hmm. I mean, as an actor, I never had that opportunity and I did multiple productions of Shakespeare, but none of them reached the heights of that kind of dialogue.
Scans pretty well too.
I kid, of course, but I mean, there are two things that I think are underestimated about Anaconda. One of them is that the title is a lie. There are anacondas, and that's something that if it were mounted as a stage production, which now I really want someone to do, that's the real key, is one anaconda dies and a bigger anaconda is still yet to be seen. It's the, what if they killed Jason Voorhees and there were another force out there? You think that the threat has been neutralized and there is yet a bigger threat. So I mentioned Jaws, I mentioned Jurassic Park, I mentioned Jungle Cruise, I mentioned King Kong. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, this movie has everything. The other movie that I've got to mention is Aliens. It's Aliens, but none of these people have weapons or are especially well trained to deal with combat or life-threatening situations. A bunch of little snakes drop on the deck of the boat and everyone is absolutely petrified. And if you haven't thought it up until then. You definitely think these people are very much out of their element. To me, there are those open gaps. There are those voids of things not happening that I get to mentally fill with what kind of dramatic potential this thing had, that I think is 90% of these people are morons and they're all going to die. That is a big part of why people enjoy this. You know, why do Owen Wilson and Kari Wurr wander off into the jungle together? Well, because they have to, because obviously they have to die at some point. And maybe it doesn't happen immediately, but you have to start like down that road.
Yeah, there's a horror movie tease kind of function in that as well, right? And then also at one point they start making out. So again, if you are in a horror movie and you are female and promiscuous, you are also marked for death, is kind of how the conventions go. So at that point, this is possibly a first candidate. And that's kind of part of the suspense of the movie too. You know that there are going to be deaths, but it kind of builds to a point where you're wondering, okay, who is the first death going to be, right? So, and kind of the person that we haven't mentioned this person yet, but kind of the person that you maybe would have expected all along, right? So Mateo, the boat skipper, he is kind of in a mercenary role. He's been hired to drive the boat. He's just driving the boat as everything is kind of swirling around him. He's kind of this, I wouldn't say a moral center necessarily, but certainly somebody who is a stabilizing force until he is not, until he is made to go in the water and the snake does what the snake does.
I feel like you're giving Mateo so much more credit than he deserves. Because to me, he is the delivery man for the moving, living hunks of meat that Cerrone needs. He's just there to deliver the multiple live bait packages to the guy who is just going to use them to bait the giant snake. And at the same time, it's like, when I find myself trying to get into the logic of this movie, maybe I'm throwing good effort directly into the depths of the Amazon. But if what they needed was a bunch of people on a boat, there are easier ways to do that than to get hired by a documentary film crew to guide them through the Amazon. It feels like they're going an extra step rather than just hiring some locals to just go on a boat fishing or something.
Then it's meta. It's a movie about a movie. And then 2025's Anaconda, as I understand, is a movie about a movie about a movie.
Yeah, so the setup of the 2025 one is that these guys are trying to remake the original movie, and things go awry. So
the river will find many ways to kill you.
The more I try to intellectualize things, the more I realize this is exactly why I like the movie, because I don't need to. It's giant snake murder boat jungle cruise. That's all it is from the beginning. That's all that it ends up being. You have a giant snake that spits out tranq darts when it gets shot in the mouth with them. You have the thing that I had forgotten about most as regards the plot was the point where Owen Wilson turns traitor and goes mutineer as much of an authority structure as this boat has, and decides we're going to make the Amazon great again. He January 6th the boat with Jon Voight, and even if you were rooting for him up till then, Boyd do you just not care about Owen Wilson getting eaten after that?
Right. Well, he does want to be Cerrone's lieutenant at that point. Yeah. Like, I think he understands, well, the former boss of this boat is in a coma, and I'm just trying to get to the other side here. So I might as well just buy in with the person who seems to have the most, because again, you see Cerrone mastering the river, you see him catching fish and stuff like that. He's kind of like, I forget the name, but you remember the villain of the first season of Survivor who got prowess by his ability to fish?
I can see him in my mind's eye, but I can't remember the guy's name.
I mean, it's not important in the grand scheme of things. It is something that occurred to me that, again, you have this person who is taking care of some of the basic needs of the people on the boat. And yeah, he might have a crazy harebrained scheme to capture a 30-foot long water snake that murders people. But he's in control, and why not? I might as well just go along with this, is what Owen Wilson determines. And then moments later, he is inside a snake.
It happens. Saron is not the Star Trek's Khan of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. You don't join up with this guy and he takes good care of you like a true Superman. Ricardo Montalban, Jon Voight definitely is not in charisma or in the gravity of characters that he plays.
He is a Timu Montalban.
Yes, I think that's very apt. He's Timu Montalban on this boat. So, I mean, any other, I'm kind of grasping at other things to mention. I feel like this movie as a jumping off point for a relatively cheap to shoot remake is fascinating to me. There's a Chinese remake of the original film that came out last year that I haven't watched that now I want to.
Okay.
Hey, they throw the right money and the right actors at it, it can be really interesting. There are some fascinating Chinese remakes of different things. There's a Chinese remake of Dangerous Liaisons with Zhang Ziyi in it. I want to know what, and I think they said it in Australia or something, but fascinating to me about them taking it seriously and doing a straight up horror remake of the original movie. And Americans are like, no, let's just have fun with it. Let's just throw Jack Black at it.
Right. I got to say, in this movie, though, I do respect the variety of deaths, the thoughts that got put into the various kind of fates that befell the characters. Some of this is kind of horror movie telegraphed, but some of it is surprising, right? But again, you have Saron, you think he is vanquished, and lo and behold, he's not, right? So, because again, that's a common movie trope, right? So that's not unexpected. But then you get kind of the final battle with him, you get the final battle with the Anaconda, and then not to like super spoiler alert this, but you have again J-Lo's character and Ice Cube's character worn out but triumphant at the end of the movie. And then Eric Stoltz pops up and lo and behold, they find the tribe that they've been looking for all along.
And the movie just ends.
And see.
I mean, the funniest thing Jon Voight does in the entire movie is wink after getting spit out by the Anaconda. Everything else is just super bizarre. Like you said, he's vibing like a snake. He's almost just like tasting the air with his tongue, not looking suspicious at all, but just leaned so hard into it that I gotta bet that there were moments where other members of the cast were like, dude, you need to relax. Where Jon Voight was just way more into this than I think various of them really were. There's this scene on the deck that very clearly, it seems like they shot all of Jon Voight's stuff, like they reshot all of Jon Voight's coverage, or they added additional coverage of Jon Voight that they didn't originally shoot. Because when they shoot Jon Voight, it's like the sun setting. And then when you see everybody else, it's the middle of the day. And I've got to think that at a certain point, they just went, this Voight guy's onto something. We got to give him more time. We got to let him cook. He's really roasting up the snake. He's delivering something real special. Any other crystallizing thoughts about this cinematic classic? Anything that sticks out to you? People who've been listening this far have either been spoiled or already saw this and know what we're talking about. But anything else that jumped out at you that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, I think we've covered a broad spectrum of
Spinal Tap. It's not.
Yeah, but there's a lot in this movie. There are a lot of layers. Again, like like a lot of things in this conversation that did not occur to me about the various kind of cinematic tropes that this movie explores and kind of fuses together. It is really a rich tapestry.
I mean, there's straight up Friday the 13th beats in there. And it's something that I knew that I thought that about it previously, but it really jumped out at me this time. So Anaconda 2025 dropping on Christmas Day. Will you be there on Christmas Day with your 8-year-old to see Jack Black?
Perhaps not Christmas Day, but I think shortly thereafter. Like I think we are going to be a first week in the cinema sort of crowd for this. I think, we are definitely going to migrate to that. Zootopia 2 was the other one on our list. We knocked that off last night. This is one that we're waiting for. This is one that we're definitely definitely set to see. Our Christmas Day is usually pretty relaxing. We are not terribly mobile. It is rare that we actually get out of pajamas on Christmas Day, but it could happen. It's a distinct possibility. I think this is something that we'll migrate towards. And of course, what I'm really looking forward to in the movie is just seeing like how much reverence they're going to have for that 1997 production, like how much richer the movie will be if you've seen the 1997 version. I feel like there are things that you will recognize that you'll be privy to only if you have absorbed the 1997 movie. You can probably see it on its own and have fun, but I think it's going to be a whole deeper, richer experience, if I can say it's given the previews that I've seen. I don't know that's necessarily an apt description.
With it being so metatextual, I fully expect there to be a cameo of some sort by someone. Jon Voight, I don't think, probably.
No, probably.
Because you don't want to be around Jon Voight if you can avoid it. But yeah, there's got to be something like that in addition to just general references to things that happened in the first movie. It is fully metatextual from the jump. They've got to. All right, Phil, I guess that does it for us. We'll cover the sequels never.
I don't know.
They are out there. The Secret of the Blood Orchid and whatever the other two are called that they slapped together when this one was unexpectedly, insanely successful. All right.
Well, find us online. Let us know like what topics you want to explore. We can certainly from time to time generate these on our own as we have done so far. But if there is a little sliver of pop culture that you think that we would deliciously skewer on your behalf, then let us know.
Yeah, we're here for it. And all the snake meat that you can take back to civilization.
Transition.
Okay, before we completely close the door on Anaconda, we need to bring in another person. She was mentioned earlier in the podcast, but I didn't quite 100% represent her viewpoints. So, Emmy, let's talk about Anaconda, 1997's Anaconda.
Hi, you might know me because I've been on this podcast before, and I'm probably on this episode because you guys like to swear. So... But are you going to ask me that?
Okay, well, I want to ask you, first of all, why you decided to watch Anaconda and bring your parents into watching Anaconda?
Because I like snakes, and I like Jack Black, and I like violence, and that's all has to do with the two Anaconda movies. And yeah, when I heard, and my mom said that Anaconda was a good movie, and she was saying that when a beautiful baby girl, aka my dog Scruffy, came back when they were talking about Anaconda, my mom and Maddox is my cousin, and I think my mom actually saw it. I think she just forgot because she was talking about it being good, and she showed me the preview for the new one, and I was like, that looks good, and she said it was in theaters for Christmas, and I was like, that is good, and she told me Jack Black and was in it, and I was like, yay! So then I learned what Anaconda was, and then I watched it, and I liked it.
Yeah, so what'd you like about it?
Fire snake.
You're going to have to explain what fire snake is.
For some reason, the people, I forgot their names because I'm cool like that.
J-Lo and Ice Cube.
Yeah, and they thought that they could kill the snake with gasoline. Wrong! It made a fire snake.
It made a fire snake. Okay.
The snake was on fire but did not die. They just made the snake more powerful. Snake could kill them. And I also when that dumb guy that I forgot the name of, he kept playing golf on the boat.
The golfing guy. Yeah, with the wine.
Yeah, the golfing guy with the wine. He kept playing golf on the boat, and he knew he was bad at golf, and it kept getting into the water, which is littering, and probably killing a baby anaconda or something like that.
Oh, so you think the anaconda was taking revenge for all the golf balls that went into the water?
No. You're probably killing fish or turtles or stuff that lives in water that are cool.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, okay. So.
And no, the anaconda didn't get revenge. The anaconda just wants to kill them. Anaconda's killing people.
But you were rooting for the anaconda in that moment, right?
Yeah, that moment when he died, I was kind of
Okay. She's dancing, by the way. I don't know if that's coming across necessarily.
I'm dancing.
Are you flossing? Is that
No.
That's
not flossing.
okay. Yeah.
I don't know how to.
I know what flossing is. No, that's pretty good. So would you recommend? Would you tell people that they should see this movie?
I do that a lot.
You already do that.
Yeah.
You told your classmates about it?
Yes.
Are you the only one that's seen it so far, though?
Yes.
Okay. So does anybody have plans to see Anaconda 2 or the new version during the holidays? Aside from us, we're gonna maybe go Christmas Day, right?
Yeah, we all. Maybe. I don't know if people like. There's a kid in my class named
Mystery.
He's awesome. Like, I don't have a crush on him. I don't know if I said that in a way that sounded normal. Like, he's really cool. He likes snakes. He likes horror stuff. He already watches Stranger Things. And I was like, do you like snakes? And he was like, yes, do. And I asked him, do you like snakes killing people? And he was like, yes. And I asked him, and I told him, you should watch Anaconda.
Yeah, and he went to Atlantis last Christmas. Or was that the summer?
Summer.
That was summer. Okay, not the real Atlantis, right? But kind of.
He went to Atlantis in the Bahamas. He went to the Bahamas.
Right. Okay. And there's a resort called Atlantis there, right? So which is also
Pretty sure.
the Lost City, right? So kind of the same intrigue and mystery as Anaconda. All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate your views here, informing the people. Anything else you wanna tell the people about either Anaconda before you go and before we go?
It's good. And if you guys like snakes and snakes killing people, and you are older than 13 or you have the soul of a 13-year-old, you should definitely watch it.
Do you have the soul of a 13-year-old?
Yes.
Is your teenager trapped in a 8-year-old's body?
Yes, like Scuffy. She's a cat trapped in a dog's body.
That's right. Our dog Scruffy is a cat trapped in a dog's body. And you are a teenager waiting to become a teenager in 5 years.
Yeah. 8 going on 16.
All right. There you have it. That is a report from the West household. Bye. Have a good one. All right. Take care, all. Remember, Anaconda comes out Christmas Day.